Hi everyone, my name's Michelle, my Mama Loves You GB here on FlossTube, but also over on Instagram and Etsy as well. Welcome to the Sunday morning briefing. I've got lots to share with you again today. I've just come back from the Wrexham retreat, which was incredible. I have a couple of one finish, one fully finish, and just lots of haul. Actually, no, I've got a bit of a drum parade as well. So I had lots and lots of lovely feedback from the drum that I showed you last week, which was the final part of my sort of linen marking sort of series tangent off on a wild ride, and I had lots of people comment on my drum, so I've actually just gone and grabbed several other drums to show you as well as actually having finished one. So my fully finished is a drum. If you followed that, you're doing better than me. So, as I said, lots and lots of stitching, lots of haul. Let's get on. So, I have worked on sort of about 3 or 4 different projects, 2 of which have been new starts, and one of which is now a finish. So let's start off with the finish. This is the first finish. Now, I've been really impressed with Sally from Flossy Sews and Grows, and actually I sat next to Sally at the Wrexham retreat. And she's basically just been picking a project, working on it till it's finished, then picking another one, working on it till it's finished. And I'm going to try and do sort of something similar in, what month are we in? June. And this was my first one that I've finished. Now this is called Mademoiselle Livre Purse by the Primitive Hare. So that's what it looks like, and I am going to try and finish it off as a little purse. And this is what mine looks like. So this is a piece of 36 count, so I used 1 strand that I hand dyed myself, which was a really lovely piece of fabric, and I'm kicking myself that I actually just did it right in the middle. It just shows that I have never had any idea of the scale of this project, because I put it on a piece of fabric like that, and I bought already a clasp to go at the top that's about that big. So I've never really got to grips with the scale of this project. So I've used similar colours, some of which are the called for. Now, I had a bit of bother with the skirt. I was torn between 2 colours for the skirt, the sort of brighter purple and the darker purple, and I ended up doing the back of it in darker purple, and I think I couldn't remember whether I was going to pull out the lighter purple and stick with the darker, or pull out the darker and go with the lighter. In the end, I kind of did it a bit of two-tone, and I don't mind it, because I think it would have been very dark all in this dark here, but I don't know if I'm as pleased with the variegation on the skirt. I think it looks okay. I also may, before I actually make it up into a pouch or into a little purse, I may add a few beads just to sort of make it a little bit more dimensional as well. But that is the stitching, that is the call for stitching complete on that one. And I started that as part of a stitch along, and I finished it, although it was one of those ones where we sort of start and then we don't really worry about it until then. And this was the Hair of the Dog Sow for Rachel the Talking Dog Stitcher's birthday. She may even have had another birthday since then, but I don't think so. I think it was her most recent birthday. So that is a finish. I am happy with that. I have also done quite a lot of work on this one. This is by Plum Street Samplers. This is called A Gentleman's Daughter. I still haven't managed to do much of the flag, but the house is definitely coming along, and I've put a lot of work into the sort of, hardcore block filling stitching in that one. This is 36 count Weeks Dye Works Grey, Old Weeks. So I've got another tree to go here, which is in this kind of paler green, which you can't see as well, but I don't mind it. There's a tree there. A few more flowers up here, obviously the rest of the house, and then the rest of the quote at the bottom. So there's a good bit of stitching left in that. I reckon it's probably 60% done. But I've really enjoyed that. I was hoping that I would have it in a position to finish it at the Wrexham retreat, but of course then I decided to make a drum and release 3 things the week before, so that didn't happen. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the way that is looking at the moment. My other new start was a sort of work project. I really like these little mill hills for work. I had a Santa before half term, which I haven't quite finished yet, but I decided I wanted to start this one. So I didn't get all of this done at school. I've done a bit on it this morning as well. I had probably the cake case, the bit of cake, and probably most of the white, but I've put the beads and some of the others. I did have more leaves up here, but of course they were in the wrong place, so they had to come back out again. I'm appearing today. I don't know quite why. I don't know why I'm appearing. So that is that one. I should probably end up taking that back to school and finishing it at lunchtimes this week, although I've got some revision sessions to do this week, so it might not get much extra love. We shall see. And then my start that happened at Wrexham with Stuart, who wasn't at Wrexham. He was in his own house. But we decided that we were going to start Miss Cherry Blossom on the 31st of May. This is the hashtag Virgin Lady Sale. So this is my first fancy lady. It is not Stuart's first fancy lady, although I may need to rephrase that. This is my first one. So if you're stitching your first Mirabilia or Bella Filipina or anybody else that does fancy stuff, lavender and lace, then feel free to use the hashtag to join in. So I'm stitching mine using the called for fabric. No, I'm not. I dyed it myself. That's absolute twaddle. I'm using fabric I dyed myself using the called for threads. That's what I was doing. Which quite honestly are in the most disgusting mess. I need to get some floss away bags sorted pronto before things get too far of an escape. And as you can see, I have a dangling thread. Let's put it up out the way. So I started this on Saturday morning, and apart from spending Saturday afternoon with Mary at Create Nostalgia and eating lovely cake, this is what I got done. So I'm up in I started in the middle and I'm up in this bodice part here. So I really enjoyed it. 32 count even weave, if I didn't say so. So I'm going to do all the stitching first and then I'll bead at the end because I have the bead pack. So beautiful. Lovely, lovely. I was really pleased to get that started. Now I've got to try and let me just wrap all these threads back up in here, otherwise, as I said, this is going to be even more of a mess very quickly. It's because I'm using a mixture of sort of threads from Stash that I already had and some new skeins of DMC that I picked up from the Nimble Thimble on the way up to the Wrexham retreat on Friday. If you could see this table, you just would not believe it. Right, my fully finish. Let's move that actually, let's put that in there for now. My fully finish is something that I'd stitched and finished a little while ago, and it is called Spring in Wales, and I think it's by Magnolia Nest Designs. And I've turned mine into a little drum with a little bit of Welsh wool fabric on the top that I got from Melyn Tregwynt, which is a local wool mill about probably 25 miles away. So it starts off with various different things from Wales. We go around daffodils and then the partridge. So I didn't print off the design again. It's got information about all of these different things in there. I should have printed it off again. And then, as I said, I finished it with a bit of Welsh wool. Now, unfortunately, it was a weird combination in the fact that I wouldn't have got the whole, if I put the whole of one design on the top, it didn't look, you couldn't tell it was really a Welsh design. So I decided to sort of just do a little bit and a little bit so that you can tell that it's a Welsh design. And I've got some spotty on the bottom because that's what I had to hand. So I decided to make another drum. I haven't put anything around the top of this one because I actually quite like, because this is a much thicker fabric on top, I probably should have taken down the cardboard a couple of millimeters, but I didn't. I left it the same size, so it's kind of got a bit of a mushroom top to it, which I quite like. So I've decided to leave that there. You never know, sometimes I go back to these and add little things afterwards, but I do like that. I'd like to get a couple of little sort of Welsh pins or something to go on the top. But there is my drum finish, and I use Vonna Pfeiffer's drum tutorial on YouTube, and I stuff them really nicely with fibre fill and crushed walnut shells. So there we are. It is again. It's stitched on a piece of 32 count West Green Loft yarns. It was a fabric of the month, and I've got in mind it's something like Old Barn or something like that. But I'm really pleased with how that turned out. So as I said, I was going to do a little bit of a drum parade before I get into a haul, and I've also got a giveaway, which I completely forgot to say. So this is the one from last week, and this is the one from this week, so you can see sort of the difference in size. So we're going to start off with our smallest drum, and we're going to work our way up to the biggest drum, because I do like a big drum. So this is probably the smallest one that I have. This is by Whilst Iris Snaps. It's a freebie, and it's called All Is Calm. Now she did design a second one called All Is Bright as well, but I haven't stitched that one. And it's got a little snowflake pattern on the top. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to pick that up. And I've got some puntini pins in the top. From memory, I think it did have another border at the bottom, which I didn't stitch. I just left it off, as is my wont. So that's the smallest of the ones I brought down. This is a Plum Street Samplers one, if I remember correctly. Oh, fool. Right, I'll tell you what I've just done in a minute. So this is called Count Twice, Stitch Once. I think it's a Plum Street Samplers one, and I must have stitched it in 2022. And it's got a lovely woman with a bird cage and then a frog there, and the frog is actually tethered to this plant, and I've just tried to remove that as a bit of a hanging thread, but it's clearly not, it's meant to be there. And then just finished with a little bit of coordinating fabric. I didn't put too much of a dome on top of this one. I use the method of doing a cardboard base and a cardboard top. Some people do a cardboard base and then they form the domed top with the stuffing inside the drum, which I've never really managed to be able to do properly. So I take a piece of cardboard and I build up a sort of dome top with some foam. Now, people always ask, well, what if you want to put pins in there? You haven't really got enough depth to put pins in. Well, there's the trick to that. If you make your cardboard top, if you just cut a hole out in the middle of the cardboard top, it's still strong enough to maintain its integrity that you need for the sort of structure of the drum, but you can put pins down deeper than just the top of the drum. So that is a good tip if you want to do the top and bottom cardboard method. Next in size, I think, is this one. Now this is a Snowflower Diaries one, and it's either called Red Squirrels or Red Scissors, and I can't remember which. If I remember, I'll link it down below, but do go and have a look at Snowflower Diaries on Etsy, and I think she's also just done her first FlossTube as well. And then I finished it with a little I forget what those are called. You buy like a, this is going to really sound awful if you don't know what I'm talking about, like a plastic template, and you sew the plastic template and you sort of gather it together and it makes these sort of flatter flowers. If I can remember what they're called, I'll put it down below. But that was stitched in a variegated silks for you. It's probably a 32 count, so I've done 2/2. And I've just put a few extra pins in there. And I've put the needle that I had kicking around earlier on. Then I stitched this one. Now this one is actually the top of a Rosewood Manor chart called Leeds House. So I used sulky threads to do this one. It's on a 36 count. It looks like Picture This plus Wren, maybe. And it was a pack of sulky threads which had the solid colours, and then it had the variegation in it as well. And I really liked it, but I only really wanted to do the top of it because it's quite a big chart. So I just did the top as a drum and then put a little bit of pom-pom trim around it. I've got a feeling the dog's about to howl, so you might get a howling dog in a minute. And then possibly the drum that I'm perhaps most famous for making, for those of you that have watched my words today are really difficult, watched my channel before, is this one by With Thy Needle, Ellen Chester. And it's quite a big piece, so I turned it into a really big drum. This is about the size of a Stilton cheese. And again, it's stitched on 36 count, probably just like a winter white, antique white, something like that. It might even be winter moon. I really like winter moon. And I just did one colour of sulky, and then I made it into a really big drum. Now, I used, in order to stuff this, I used polystyrene cake blanks. So if you're a cake maker and you want to make a cake with loads and loads of tiers on it, but actually they're not all cake, you can buy round polystyrene cake blanks. I believe that's what they're for making fake cake. And so I've put 2 in there so that when I put in my walnut shells and my fibre fill, I didn't have to fill the entirety of this enormous drum. A lot of the space is already taken up because otherwise it would be too big, far too big to even lift. But I'm really pleased with it. And occasionally it looks like it's got a little bit out of shape, so you just give it a bit of a roll and it sort of rattles itself back in. And apparently I made that in 2001. Now, I wouldn't have said it was that long ago, but time flies when you're making drums. So if you've never had a go at a drum, have a go at making a drum. They're really not as difficult as you might think. And, you know, newsflash, you don't have to make them with a stitched piece. You can just have a go with plain fabric to begin with. Just get some, you know, an old tablecloth from a charity shop and actually have a go at constructing a drum. You also don't, I haven't got any here, you also don't have to stitch this bit if you don't want to. You could make your drum with the top piece. So again, it's a little bit of a less of a risk because you're perhaps using a smaller piece of stitching, but you could start off by doing that. So you can either make a completely blank one with no stitching on, you could start off by making just the top, or stitching just the top and making the sides plain, or just go for it. What's the worst that could happen? But I love making drums and they're really, really not as hard as they might look. I promise, I promise. Right, freebie. Because I finished a primitive Hare, I went and had a look to see if she had any free charts. And she does. This one's only just recently been released. Now there's a bit of an odd way of being able to get to this. You have to go onto her Instagram for this pattern, and you have to comment the word protection. And then it just, I don't know how it does it, but it automatically into your messages sends you a link to download this. So if you're a fan of the primitive Hare and you particularly want this chart, that is the way to go about doing it. There isn't a link just to click on. Right, we have another giveaway from Cotton and Twine. So let's see what we've got in here. this is the box for June. Now you might have seen this already on social media, and it's a beautiful, beautiful one. So you get the chart, you get a little bar of sea salt and oat milk chocolate. You get this lovely little wooden bird, very, very glossy, shiny, sort of folky wooden bird. I really liked him. I was very tempted to keep this box and stitch this. A hoop to finish in, a needle which has escaped the packet. This will be 32 count linen because that's what they always send me, but it's not a huge piece if you wanted to change yours for 16 count Ada. If you wanted to change it to anything else, you'd either need a bigger or smaller hoop, and there's a chance you might need more floss if you're gonna go to a lower count, but usually there's absolutely loads. So if you would like to win that, then I am going to ask you to use the word birdhouse. So birdhouse, if you would like to try and win that. That's right, I just paused then because there was something on my screen and I was like trying to work out whether it's on the camera lens, on my screen or in the room, and it turns out it's actually a smudge of chocolate on my phone. I don't think you've been able to see it. I think it's just on the glass, but there's a smudge of chocolate. Oh, let's just carry on piling these things up. Right, we now have some haul to look through. I don't need to explain myself to you guys, do I? I got a job lot from eBay of charts. Now they're all Christmassy ones, and the reason is because there was a couple that I particularly wanted out of this pack. So those were just some bits and bobs. They weren't the ones I particularly wanted. Those I might have a little go at, but probably not in those colours. So that's in a gentle fashion. Christmas Balls by Linda Palmer. Oops, I'm not going to show you all of these because, well, unless you desperately want me to. If you want me to show them, I'll show them next week. But they're just sort of a mixture of sort of older Christmas designs, but I'll show you the ones that I particularly wanted to have a go at. Look at those. Aren't those beautiful? But I know them to be well above my skill level. I think that's it. Oh, I'm sure the dog's howling up, getting ready for a howl up. That's quite a nice one. There's a few nice ones on there. Mill Hill. Let it snow. But the ones I particularly wanted, I do like the Cricket Collection one. This sort of shepherd here. And is that in there as well then? Ooh, 2 seconds. Ooh. Oh, I think there's two in there. I think there's the shepherdess and the shepherd, which I didn't realise. So they're both in there. That was one of the ones that I bought it for. I think I paid about £10 for the whole pack, so it's not really too much of an issue if there's only 2 or 3 I want. Starry Night by Prairie Schooler. And I also liked this one, Santa and Friends. There's a possibility I've got that one, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, these look above my skill set, but I think I could probably manage them. This is called Peace on Earth by Counted Illuminations, and it's kind of like this church where you cut out bits and bobs. I really don't know how to make this. Bits and bobs, so you can almost get a stained glass effect. So we'll give it a whirl, maybe one day. And then this is the same idea. This is called A Christmas Church. and I liked that one as well. A little bit out of my comfort zone, very much out of my comfort zone, but you know, give it a whirl, see what happens. But this is what I really bought it for. Now I know that this company does other designs, and I know there's another one of these that I want. So this is the Quilt Santa. How fabulous is he? So we do that in perforated paper, and we do those little paper doodads. These ones are all perforated paper as well. Now the other one that they do is called Forest Santa, and I'm going to try to get my hands on that one because I really like that one as well. Same idea, a main Santa with a few little extras. So that was the one thing I really wanted out of that whole pack, but there's about 5 or 6 that I would stitch. Right. I'm going to start off, I'm just going to take all this out of the bag because actually it's not all from the Wrexham retreat, which was fabulous, by the way. It was amazing. So it takes place up in Wrexham at the Ramada Hotel, and the hotel is fabulous. The room was just really lovely. There was drinks in the room, there was a bath, which you don't always get, sometimes it's just a shower. Really big room. I think I could have fitted most of the retreat actually in my bedroom. The food was amazing. I have never eaten so much cake in my entire life. This was the cake schedule for 3 days, right? According to Chris at the Nimble Thimble, on the way up, she was serving cake. So that was about 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Dogs are about to go. Right, I think they've got over themselves now. So, first of all, cake at the Nimble Thimble at about 3 o'clock. Then I got to the retreat, then it was dinner at 7 o'clock, lovely dinner, and then there was cake for pudding, or gatto. So that. Next morning, got up, had breakfast, there was cake again at 10 o'clock. Then we had lunch, there was cake for pudding. Then I went to Create Nostalgia, and Mary was serving scones with jam and cream, so I had one of those. Then I got back to the retreat, and then there was it was birthday cake for Lynn and another lady called Hazel. Now they kept calling her Heather and Hazel. I'm not sure which one it was now. Oh, Hazel, I think. I'm pretty sure it was Hazel. So there was cake for them. Then it was dinner time, and so there was more pudding. Then pretty much the same thing happened on Sunday. 10 o'clock cake, lunchtime cake, afternoon cake. So I think I probably had about 15 servings of cake in 3 days, which was excessive really. But I did find myself on Monday back at school snaffling for cake. So lots and lots of haul. I'm going to start off actually, yes, let's start off with what I got at the retreat, and I'll try and separate them out. I should have done that beforehand really, to separate them out into what I actually got at the retreat. Right, this little bag looks favourable. Oh, I got another star. Forgot about that. Hang on. So this is my bag from the Nimble Thimble. I picked up the Blue Flower Forest Home. Now, it's been a while since I've placed an order with Chris, so I thought I better do some good work while I was there. So I've been after this one for a little while. I then also picked up this one, Where Love Resides, by Leela's Studio, sorry, I believe it's Leela. And I picked up all the DMCs for that one, and I made a start on it on the Friday night on some fabric that I had with me. It is a Fox and Rabbit of the month called Spun Moonlight. So I made a little start on it on Friday. I'd forgotten about that one. I then bought the Blue Flower, Bees in the Greenhouse, sorry. And I'm hoping that she will release the other one of these that she had at the Jingle Ball this year, because I really liked the one from the Jingle Ball as well. I got that one from Chris at the Nimble Thimble because I had bought that one from Rachel, the Talking Dog Stitcher, and I not sure if I showed you that one before or if it came after I had filmed last week. So either way, I've got both of those to do. I got the Prairie Schooler 2025 Santa. And then I also got the Christmas trees 2. I've wanted this one for ages because it looks fabulous. Right, I think that is it. Yes, that is it for the Nimble Thimble. At the retreat itself, there was some de-stash. So I picked up this one, Quaker Pig and Rooster, because I think I've got the fox and I think I've got the crow, maybe. I've definitely got the fox, but I might have the crow as well. I got this one, Promise of Spring, from Cottage Garden Samplings. Do like that one. And actually, I think a lady called Cheryl was stitching on that during the retreat. Or it had very similar colours to it, and I really liked it. So that's what prompted me to pick that one up. And then I got these 3 Oliver Twist threads as well. They were part of the de-stash. They're all stranded cotton, and they're all sort of various different shades of green, which I thought would be really easy to sort of incorporate into any project going forward. So I picked those up from the retreat. There was a lovely table of freebies, of which I contributed quite a few things that people have sent me over the years. There was some de-stash. It was just a great retreat. If you're looking for a retreat where what I liked about it was really, really flexible. People would go out to the shops and come back in. So Nimble Thimble's probably about 30 minutes away. Create Nostalgia's probably about 15 minutes away. People would go out to the retreat. They might go out other places during the day, come back in. Some people just wanted to sit and stitch in the stitching room. It was just so relaxing and flexible. Organised by a lady called Di and also by Lynn, who is the Lancashire Stitcher. There is a Facebook group, which is where the information comes out, and she's released the dates for definitely for the May and possibly for the July as well. I think there's 2 again next year, but the sign up, I know the sign up for the May is already started. So I'll put the information for that down below, but the best thing to do is go over to Lynn, the Lancashire Stitcher, and she'll find out all the information from there. Sorry, FlossTube itchy nose. And then I had a lovely time at Create Nostalgia. So what did I get from there? I got a couple more Mill Hill kits. I'm really liking these little Mill Hill kits at the minute, just for having in the car and just for having, you know, anywhere to hand, especially coming into the summer. I got Batty. And I got this one. Now this has only just come out, I'm pretty sure. This is the UFO. And I got some lovely little pins from Just Another Button Company. I really liked the blackbird on that one. And I then got some fabric. This is 32 count Sea Lily fabric. I've got a feeling it's a Permin or a Witch Out one, because I thought it was the perfect colour for those. I really liked the colour. It was a little bit brighter, but I really liked the colour. I got this one, which is called Jolly Old Saint Nick by Blackberry Lane. Well, it's all happening today. That was my mum coming back from shopping. So, where was I? I was at Create Nostalgia, and I had got this one, Jolly Saint Nick. I love these Blackberry Lane ones. They are really, really lovely because they've got a lot of over 2 stitching, but they've also got a lot of over 1 stitching when it comes to the detail. And I also got this one. This is called Peppermint Candy, and it's a double-sided ornament. Now, I saw this on Brenda, the Handwork Maniac, and she'd finished it and it looked amazing. It comes with the little sort of sugared beads to make the hanger with, but there is also a bead pack that I need to get, because what's on the bead pack? All these little candy cane pinwheels are on the bead pack, plus I think the what's that thing called? The wreath is on there as well, and some gingerbread men. So I need to get that, because I also picked up some 32 count dark chestnut linen. The call for on this one is the 32 count crystal gingerbread by Pitch This Plus, but I can't stand crystal linen, so I just went for a plain one. Talking dog stitcher, my first of the auto ships came. So this is the wolf. Now, as those of you who follow me might know, I have stitched, I think, 6 of the previous ones. I dyed myself the winter, spring, summer, autumn linen, and I've fully finished 6, all of winter and all of spring, I think, and I've just got summer and autumn to go. So should I be really starting this one or thinking about this one? No, not really, but am I gonna? Yes, I am. So this is the wolf, and I was thinking about what fabric to do it on, and I have a yard piece of putty. Is it putty? Yeah, putty by Weeks Dye Works. So I think I might actually put them on there. So I'll need to do a bit of a floss toss on the first one just to make sure that the greens and things stand out. But that's a possibility. If not, I'll need to dye myself a piece to do it on, which is no problem. But I might as well use what I've got if it works. And then I had another little buy from the lady who I bought some of her de-stash before. I went back and saw what else she had on, and she had some fabrics, some 36 count fabrics. So I got a fat quarter of Picture This Plus Haunted. Love, love, love. Love that fabric. I think I've actually got a piece of it already, but I can't even work out how that folds. And I'm not in the mood to try. Now this I love. I've never had any of this before. This is Picture This Plus Dwarf, and this was a fat 1/8, but I love this. It's definitely something that I would reorder. Really nice. Can't wait to find something to go on that. She'd sent me this little piece of Fox and Rabbit watermelon, just as a little freebie extra. So I'll look forward to finding a couple of smalls to go on that. This is Fox and Rabbit Lyrebird Dell, which is an amazing colour fabric. And I think I've got an idea of what I want to put on that if it fits. So fingers crossed. And then this last piece is 36 count Picture This Plus Charm. And I've got a feeling I want to put the Lucy Bean chart that I had a couple of weeks ago on there, the one about flowers and friends. So I think I might put it on there because it looks very similar to the called for, and I really like the called for. And that's it, folks. And I think it's very much time for me to just calm down a little bit. Yes, I've got plenty to stitch. Yes, another interruption. The dogs. But I've got lots to stitch. I've got lots to do, but it makes me really happy. All this stuff really makes me really happy. And so yeah, do whatever makes you happy. Don't have to explain it to anyone. Anyway, I'll see you next week. Stay classy, stitchers.